Quan Yi, who had not read Douluo novels, was reincarnated into Douluo Continent. What is the essence of martial soul? Can innate soul power really not be changed? Without a golden finger, without knowing the plot, relying solely on his own wisdom and perseverance, where can Quan Yi go? If you're used to watching the protagonist go to Shrek Academy, you can also come in and see the protagonist go to Blaze Academy. Restoring the real Douluo Continent martial soul. Lieyang Hand Armor, Fire Attribute Ultimate Weapon Martial Soul Talent. Fire Exemption and Fire Control Congenital Soul Power. Level 10 Keywords of the novel. Douluo Ji from becoming stronger, starting from eating soul beast meat without pop-ups. Douluo Ji from becoming stronger, starting from eating soul beast meat. Download the complete text. Douluo Ji from becoming stronger, starting from eating soul beast meat. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Determination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Determination. In the morning, the sky is slightly bright. In the swimming pool within the territory of the Quan family, Quan Yi is swimming. The arms and legs sway rhythmically, with smooth and natural movements. Although the movements are not very intense, the speed is not slow. Beautiful white water splashed on the water surface, shining brightly in the early morning sunlight. Swimming pool, length, 25 meters, width, 5 meters. Quanyi's task in the morning is to swim 1,500 meters. What is the concept of 1,500 meters? It usually takes about 40 minutes for a normal adult to swim 1,500 meters. But Quanyi, who is only 6 years old, can already swim within half an hour. The current achievements are due to Quanyi's unremitting efforts over the past 4 years. Since setting up an exercise plan 4 years ago, Quanyi has been swimming every day, regardless of wind or rain, and constantly increasing the distance of swimming. There is a reason why Quanyi worked so hard. Quanyi is a reincarnation. In his past life, he was a senior high school student. Although he was an orphan, he was also an excellent young man with a bright future. Until one time, in order to save someone, Quanyi was accidentally hit by a truck and unexpectedly reincarnated into this unfamiliar world. This is a fantasy world where everyone has a martial soul, but at the same time, it is also a feudal society with clear identity levels and severe social stratification. And at the top of this social pyramid is the soul master. As long as you can become a soul master, you have surpassed 99% of people. And becoming a soul master, the government will also provide subsidies to help you cultivate to level 40. Even if there is no breakthrough, the government will continue to provide subsidies to ensure that you have no worries about food and clothing for your entire life. Therefore, Quanyi really wants to become a soul master, but to become a soul master, one must have soul power. And soul power seems to be innate. Whether one can become a soul master or not can only be determined by the eyes of heaven. Izumi, born into a soul master family, has a high probability of awakening innate soul power compared to most people. But Quanyi is a cautious person. He dare not pin his hopes on the elusive probability, he wants more precise evidence. Therefore, Quanyi initially extensively searched through books on martial souls and soul power, and through his research, he found that innate soul power may not be determined by innate factors. The most obvious clue is that the ratio of male and female soul masters has actually reached 5 to 1. The number of female soul masters is far less than that of male soul masters. If soul power is truly innate, how could such an outrageous difference occur? Quanyi pondered deeply and combined his knowledge about martial souls to come to a conclusion. Fundamentally speaking, the martial soul is a collective of energy, a manifestation of life energy. And these energies are not generated out of thin air, but from the body, which is the foundation of the martial soul. The stronger the body, the more energy it can provide to the martial soul. The more energy there is, the stronger the martial soul will be. Moreover, the martial soul and soul power are directly proportional. The stronger the martial soul, the higher the innate soul power. Conversely, the higher the innate soul power, the stronger the martial soul. Therefore, the level of innate soul power may have a hidden relationship with physical strength. Based on the above inference, the physical strength of women is inherently weaker than that of men, which may be the fundamental reason why the number of female soul masters is lower than that of men. Thinking of this, Quan couldn't hold back his excited heart. He seemed to see the grand road leading to the soul master. Having a strong body has the possibility of awakening a powerful martial soul, which can lead to higher soul power. But the biggest challenge facing Quanyi is that he is still very young. Can his young body really withstand high-intensity exercise? Is there any exercise method that can exercise the body without causing a huge burden? Quanyi combined his memories from his past life and found that swimming just met his requirements. Under the influence of buoyancy in water, the joints of the body do not bear tremendous pressure like on the ground, and swimming can also exercise various parts of the body. With minimal damage and high efficiency, swimming is undoubtedly the best sport at present. Moreover, if the swimming pool is built indoors, the spring will not be restricted by the weather. At the age of only 2, Quanyi immediately went to search for his mother and told her that he wanted to exercise by swimming. Quanyi's mother, Su Linger, has a fiery red wavy curly hair, a plump figure, and a graceful and elegant demeanor, perfectly showcasing the charm of a mature woman. And her height is very high, at least 1.8 meters or more, higher than ordinary men. Upon hearing her son's thoughts, Su Linger's gentle face flashed with surprise. She knew that her son was mentally mature and had been different since childhood, but to her surprise, he was far beyond her imagination. Su Linger felt both comfort and worry in her heart. Exercising can be very tiring, and only long-term persistence can see results. This process can be very painful. Are you really prepared to endure hardship? Quan's face showed a determined expression, and his clear eyes met his mother's bright eyes. He replied very firmly, "Mother, I want to become a soul master. I can't waste time to become a soul master. I only have 4 years left." "What 4 years?" Su Linger asked Quanyi in confusion. Quan Yi's mother explained her reasoning process and emphasized to Su Linger the relationship between physical fitness, martial soul, and soul power. After listening, Su Linger fell into contemplation. Su Linger is a genius soul master who reached the Soul King realm in her 30s and is now a level 53 war soul master. Possessing a mutated martial soul, the blazing sun lion. As an excellent soul master, Su Linger is certainly very aware of the importance of physical strength for soul masters. Physical fitness not only allows soul masters to carry more soul power, but also enhances their combat effectiveness. Every excellent soul master will not relax their physical exercise. But Su Linger has never heard of the saying that physical strength can affect innate soul power. For a long time, in people's perception, innate soul power has always been determined by innate. Therefore, when Su Linger heard Quan Yi's inference, she was greatly impacted and could not recover for a long time. Although what you said is very reasonable, it is ultimately an aerial attic. Without conducting large-scale experiments, it is impossible to verify whether your inference is correct. Moreover, you are our son, your father and I are both soul masters. No matter which martial soul you inherit, you are likely to have a considerable innate soul power. Although Su Linger's heart had not yet calmed down, she still calmly replied to Quanyi. But Quanyi has already made his decision firmly. "Mother, I cannot completely entrust my fate to heaven. My future should be under my control. I don't want to complain about why I haven't worked hard after awakening my soul power in the future. Mother, please help me, I don't want to regret it." Quanyi's steady and resolute voice echoed in Su Linger's ear. Su Linger felt that she had always underestimated her son's growth. "I didn't expect my son to be a determined man." Su Linger's passion was ignited by Quanyi, and she excitedly picked up Quanyi, making a resolute promise. Good ambition, truly my son. Don't worry, Mom supports your decision. No matter what the outcome is, Mom will definitely accompany you to the end. Feeling the warm embrace of his mother, Quan felt that his whole body was full of strength. This feeling has never been felt by Quanyi in his past life. The trust and commitment of his mother made Quanyi secretly determined not to betray his mother's trust. As night fell, it fell into darkness, with only Quanyi's room still shining. In front of the desk, Quan Yi was writing seriously under the dim light, as if returning to the night of his third year of high school. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Training Plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Training Plan at Night, in the Underground Training Room. This is the head of the Quan family, which is the dedicated training room of Quan Yi's father. The cultivation room is located underground, with only one passage to enter. And there has always been someone guarding the door. The cultivation room is filled with various cold weapons, including knives, guns, swords, and halberds, armor, shields, and an astonishing number of weapons, enough to arm 100 soldiers. A tall and powerful man sat cross-legged in the middle, surrounded by dangerous weapons, but it seemed that he could not be affected. He calmly sat cross-legged on the ground, practicing soul power. This man is the current head of the Quan family and also the father of Quan Yi, Quan Yu. Although this is Quanyu's training room, it is also a treasure trove for storing family weapons. Quan Yu, a level 59 soul master, is 39 years old. Martial soul, black iron armor. He is a soul master at the level of soul king. As for why Quan Yi meditates and cultivates in the family's arsenal, it is necessary to mention the concept of a simulated cultivation environment. Every martial soul has its own adaptive environment, and practicing in this environment often has a multiplier effect with half the effort. And Quanyu's black iron hand armor is a protective device that covers the hands and forearms. The hidden arsenal filled with weapons and armor perfectly matches the simulated cultivation environment of Black Iron Hand Armor's martial soul, which can enhance the cultivation effect. Madam, may I ask if there is anything I can do? As instructed by the clan chief, please do not disturb unless it is an emergency. I have something important, could you please convey it to me? Upon hearing Madam's order, the guard at the door shook the rope hanging at the door twice. The rope connects to the bell behind the door, and when something happens outside, the gatekeeper can remind the people inside by pulling the rope. After a moment, the heavy warehouse door opened from the inside, and a tall figure slowly walked out from underground. Lieyang, come on in and speak. After finishing speaking, Quanyi entered the door again, and Lieyang followed closely behind. The heavy door was closed again by Lieyang. Arriving at the underground cultivation room, Quan looked at Lieyang with gentleness and asked, "Tell me, there must be something urgent." "Sorry, husband. I know you're breaking through the bottleneck in seclusion, but this matter is too important. I think you should also know about it." Lieyang immediately handed over Quan Yi's matter to Quan Yu. After listening, Quanyu's face became heavy. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, he truly deserves to be my son from Quanyi. He is only 2 years old, so intelligent and decisive. With such ambition in his heart, I, as an old man, naturally need great help." At this moment, Quanyi felt a huge surprise from his son because the family affairs were busy, and coupled with his recent efforts to break through the bottleneck of soul power, his attention to his son inevitably decreased. But after all, Quanyi is still young, and it's not too late to accompany him after he breaks through. Quan Yu originally thought so. But now Quan feels more and more that he should take it seriously. Quan Yi has already started to need his help, and if he is absent at this time, he will miss the most important moment in his life. The next morning. In the cafeteria, Quanyi saw my father whom I hadn't seen in a long time, and realized that his father should already know. Sure enough, as soon as he sat down, Quan Yi spoke up and said, "Little one, I already know about your plan. Your mother and I have already had someone start building a swimming pool, and we plan to give you a chance." Quan looked at his father and saw the seriousness in his eyes. "Understood my father's meaning." Quanyi immediately stood up and bowed solemnly to his father and mother. "I will definitely not betray your trust." After speaking, he took out a folded paper from his pocket. "Hand it to Quan Yi. This is my schedule, please review it." Quan Yi opened it and saw that it was densely packed with a whole piece of paper. Schedule 1, perform swimming training 3 times a day in the morning, middle, and evening. Require reaching the physical limit. 2. Persist in sleeping for more than 10 hours every day. Ensure sufficient rest and recovery time. 3. Persist in consuming sufficient nutrients every day. Requirement. Eat sufficient amount of soul beast meat for 3 meals a day, preferably soul beasts with fire and metal properties. The more I looked at it, the more I was shocked, especially when I saw the final plan about soul beast meat. Quan Yi couldn't help but sigh. Through extreme training, consume energy, and then replenish by consuming soul beast meat. Soul beast meat has rich energy, and continuous intake of fire or metallic soul beast meat will definitely have a positive effect on the formation of martial souls. Moreover, what is even more rare is that Quanyi did not forget the time to rest and recover. The principle of relaxation and moderation was only realized by Quan Yi himself after reaching adulthood. Although the plan is simple, it covers all aspects, and it's hard to believe that this schedule was designed by a 2-year-old child. Xiaoyi, is this really something you designed yourself? If you can strictly follow this plan, perhaps you can really create miracles, right? Quan Yi felt that he had endured too much impact in just one day. "Father, this is what I wrote based on the knowledge from books, and the most important part of it is the soul beast meat. Can you provide it to me? We can directly purchase soul beasts in the soul hunting forest that have been obtained by people's soul rings. People generally only value the soul bones and soul rings of soul beasts, and ignore the soul beast meat, where we can purchase them at a low price." Quan Yi's eyes lit up, and Quan Yi even considered it. It must be that the plan had been planned for a long time. Quan Yi's decisive personality immediately responded. "Okay, we'll do as you say. You don't have to worry, our Quan family still has some money. It's easy to provide you with food and drink as a child. Quanyi, just move forward." The deep love of his father made Quan's eyes hot. He suddenly felt that choosing to save someone in his past life was the best choice he had made. Without it, one cannot touch their own parents, perhaps this is a reward bestowed upon them by heaven. At this moment, Quanyi has an additional reason to become a soul master, which is to protect his family. Only by becoming a soul master can he have the ability to protect them. The efficiency of the Quan family is very fast. In less than 2 weeks, a swimming pool was built. This is a 1-story swimming pool with a large floor area. Inside is a spacious swimming pool. The swimming pool is located near a small stream, connected to it. When water needs to be injected, simply open the upstream valve and the water can flow in. When cleaning the swimming pool, the downstream valve can be opened to allow water to flow out through the pipeline. This way, the water in the pool can be kept clean and clear. The design here embodies the wisdom of architects. Quanyi was amazed. Within these 2 weeks, the first batch of soul beast meat has been transported to the Quan family. This batch was purchased from the nearest soul hunting forest, but it is still a bit far away. Considering that meat may rot during transportation, the people of the Quan family directly marinate the soul beast meat in a jar to make pickled meat, which can be preserved for a longer time. Everything is ready, and Quanyi has officially started his training career. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. For years. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. For years Quanyi's primary task is to learn how to swim. He has never swam, whether in his past or present life. In the first few weeks, Quanyi immersed himself in water and constantly strengthened his water sensitivity. Slowly, the spring could float in the water, and when it could, he began to swing his limbs and control himself to swim in the water. Soaking in water for a long time consumes more physical energy than imagined, and it is very friendly to bones and joints. Quanyi has greater confidence in his choice. And the soul beast meat brought a huge surprise to Quanyi. The marinated soul beast meat, carefully roasted by her mother Su Linger, instantly becomes a delicious dish with a perfect combination of color, aroma, and taste. Moreover, more importantly, after eating a piece of soul beast meat, Quan could vaguely feel the warm current coming from his stomach. As time passed, this warm current slowly spread from the stomach to all four limbs, greatly relieving fatigue and allowing Quanyi to train more efficiently 3 times a day. Everything is even more effective than expected. After confirming the effect, what Quanyi needs to do is to break through his body limits and use soul beast meat to repair it. As long as this process is repeated continuously, his body strength will continue to increase. But this can also be an extremely painful process. The biggest reason why the support spring continues after each training is the soul beast meat. Su Linger is truly a fire attribute soul master, who excels in controlling the fire. The soul beast meat dish made is charred on the outside and tender on the inside, and melts upon entry. Extreme training, coupled with amazing soul beast meat and sufficient sleep, Quanyi's body is transforming at an astonishing speed. Speed and endurance are constantly increasing, and in order to reach the limit faster, Quanyi can only constantly change the rhythm, disrupt his own breath, and increase difficulty. So, training, eating, and resting occupy a large part of the spring's time. Moreover, the remaining time was not idle at all, and he actively collected and learned knowledge about martial souls using the remaining time. As the study deepened, Quanyi began to have some vague understanding of martial souls, soul beasts, and soul rings. The more I understand, the more I yearn for Quanyi. He can't wait anymore. With his cool soul skills, fierce soul beasts, and various martial souls, Quanyi must become a soul master if he wants to get close to them. These actually stimulated Quanyi, making him train himself even harder. Time passed like this, and 4 years passed in a blink of an eye. At the age of 6, Quanyi can swim 1,500 meters in less than half an hour. The total distance of swimming in a day reaches an astonishing 10,000 meters. It's not a constant speed of 10,000 meters, but a constantly accelerating and changing rhythm of 10,000 meters. In the swimming pool, Quan Yi, who had finished his morning training, lazily opened his arms and leaned against the edge of the pool, quietly enjoying the peace after intense exercise. The constantly undulating chest has obvious muscle lines. What's even more exaggerated is his shoulders, which are incredibly wide due to long-term swimming. Coupled with a tight waist, seeing this body, one can't help but think of the term, tiger-backed wolf waist. The 2 outstretched arms have bulging veins and distinct and smooth lines. This body has been polished to perfection. All of this is the result of Quan's hard work and training over the past 4 years. Today is the martial soul awakening day that Izumi has been dreaming of. Everything will come to an end on this day. As usual, Su Linger walked over to Quanyi with a stack of dry towels in her hand and handed them to him. Xiao Yi, today is the awakening day of the martial souls within the clan, so there's no need to swim today. Su Linger's eyes were filled with satisfaction. Although Quanyi's sweat over the past 4 years has flowed into the sea with the stream, Su Linger will never forget it. If it weren't for the sake of confidentiality, Su Linger would have wanted to boast about her excellent son to others. Today is the day of verification. But unbelievably, there was no hint of worry in Su Linger's heart. What vaguely exists in the heart is only expectation. She was a bit eager to see her son create a miracle on this day. Mother, we're used to it. If we don't swim, we'll feel a bit uneasy. Although today was already that day, Quan Yi showed no signs of nervousness or wavering, and calmly started talking to his mother. A 4-year career has not only honed Izumi's physical strength, but also his spirit. This is a journey of heart training. No one can perceive innate soul power. This kind of exercise without feedback is like running in darkness. You don't know where you're heading, but you can only run with unwavering faith. I have had several thoughts in my heart that I wanted to give up. But Quanyi, with his perseverance, cut through all the confusion. On awakening day, Quanyi was already able to do everything he could to perfection. Afterwards, it depends on the outcome. Mother, I'm hungry. I feel like I can eat 2 large plates of soul beast meat today. Su Ling'er saw Quanyi talking to her. Let's go, I've already prepared breakfast for today, but I stewed the remaining metallic and fire attribute soul beast meat together. You can eat as much as you want. In the restaurant, my mother brought a basin-sized plate. Inside, there were piles of meat chunks piled up like mountains, with a human-like color and a fragrant aroma. The spring couldn't help but salivate, and its appetite opened up, eagerly indulging in it. After enjoying this sumptuous breakfast, Quanyi felt unparalleled satisfaction and happiness. At this moment, Quan Yi walked in from outside. Xiao Yi, the carriage is ready. Once you're ready, you can start at any time. Father, I'm ready to go now. The more Quan looked at Quan Yi, the more he wanted to motivate his son, but seeing Quan Yi's steady expression, the more Quan knew that Quan Yi didn't need comfort. This kid, who can maintain a calm mind at times like this, is truly my son, Quan Yi thought to himself. Quan Yi is only proud of Quanyi. He knows that his son has put in a lot of effort for this, and he firmly believes that his son can create miracles. Okay, let's go then. Let's go shock the world. Yes. In Quanyi's eyes, a flame was quietly burning. Outside the martial soul palace, all eligible children in the city will gather together. They are quietly waiting for the appearance of the personnel from the martial soul hall. Parents are also anxiously looking at their children, hoping that they will awaken their powerful martial souls and become soul masters. Among these children, there is a vacuum area where a tall figure stands alone. Quanyi inherited the height of his parents, even though he was only 6 years old and already had the height of a 10-year-old child. Moreover, year-round exercise has made his body wider and thicker, and even a thin single garment cannot conceal his full and smooth muscles. In addition, the strong and steady aura emanating from Quanyi's body forced the surrounding children to retreat. The hot sun scorched the earth. The personnel of the martial soul hall who had been waiting for a long time opened the door and ordered the children who had been waiting for a long time to enter in an orderly manner. Soon, the martial soul awakening ceremony officially began. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Martial Soul Awakening. Hello everyone, I am the deacon responsible for this martial soul awakening ceremony. Please queue up and enter in an orderly manner. Without delay, the awakening of the martial soul has officially begun. An elderly man with gray hair presided over the awakening ceremony of the martial soul. Today is an annual event, and all children around the age of 6 in the vicinity will come here to awaken their martial souls. Therefore, it is inevitable that a long queue has formed. And accompanying personnel need to go to the side observation area to observe, most of whom are the parents of their children. They eagerly look at their own children, hoping that their children can become soul masters. The ceremony will start soon. The martial soul tiger has 2 levels of innate soul power. Martial soul sickle, innate soul power level 1. Martial soul blue silver grass, innate soul power level 0. Looking at the martial souls of others, Quanyi was also silently pondering. It seems that the probability of beast martial soul awakening innate soul power is higher. But both my father and mother's martial souls are very powerful, awakening either one is not a bad thing. The martial soul awakening ceremony is faster than imagined. The queue in front was rapidly decreasing, and soon it was Quanyi's turn. The deacon of the martial soul hall noticed this young man from the very beginning, his towering figure that was hard not to notice. "Are you really 6 years old?" he asked incredulously. "Yes, Master Soul. I just celebrated my 6th birthday a few days ago." "Well, come in. I'll help you awaken your martial soul." Izumi took a big step forward and walked into the hexagonal array. With the injection of soul power, the formation began to emit a golden light, forming a light golden mask that enveloped the spring. A large number of golden dots appeared from the black stone, shining brilliantly. Everyone's gaze was focused on Quanyi, and at this moment, the number of light points in the array was astonishing, far exceeding that of ordinary people by 10 times. Quanyi's parents have already widened their eyes with excitement, which is a sign of awakening a powerful martial soul. At this moment, Quanyi did not pay any attention to his surroundings, and his mind was focused on the inside of his body. As the light entered his body, he felt a warm breath circulating within him. This breath resonates with Quanyi's entire body, and Quanyi can feel the energy from his whole body continuously converging towards his hands under the guidance of this breath. Suddenly, Quan instinctively raised his hands, and in an instant, a fiery red color appeared in his eyes. His hands burst into flames, but surprisingly, Quan couldn't feel the heat. On the contrary, the deacon of the martial soul hall standing in front of him felt the scorching heat, causing him to unconsciously squint his eyes. But soon the flames dissipated. The martial soul also revealed its original appearance. The martial soul is armor, a steel handguard worn by medieval knights, but overall it fits more closely to the hands and does not feel bulky. The overall appearance of the martial soul is pitch black, completely covering the hands and forearms. But the surface of the armor is covered with dark red flame patterns, and there is a sun-shaped red decoration on the back of the hand. Upon careful observation, it can be found that the flame patterns are emitted from this circular sun. Red and black, understated and luxurious, the armor is not like equipment, but more like a craftsman's carefully crafted artwork. Staring for a long time, Quanyi felt as if his spirit would be absorbed by the martial soul, unable to extricate himself, giving people a sense of danger. Just as Quan Yi was still admiring his martial soul, the steward quickly urged him. "Pick up the soul power test crystal in your hand and walk quickly to Quanyi's face. Child, first use your mind to retrieve the martial soul, and then place your hand on the crystal." The deacon of the martial soul hall is now very excited. He has a premonition that this child must be a rare genius. If he could introduce him to the martial soul hall, he would also have made great contributions. Upon hearing the call of the deacon, Quan reluctantly shifted his gaze away from his martial soul. Looking at Quanyi's parents from afar, they tightly grasped each other's hand and unconsciously shed sweat. In the anticipation of everyone's eyes, Quanyi extended his big hand and pressed heavily on this blue crystal stone. The crystal shines brightly, shining with a dazzling light. Okay, it's innate soul power." The first sound that came was from Quan Yi, and he shouted excitedly. Meanwhile, Su Linger beside her couldn't hold back the tears in her eyes anymore, excitedly slapping Quan Yi and showing off to the people around her. "That's my son, he has innate soul power." Su Linger is very clear about the efforts Quanyi has put in these 4 years. Su Linger wept with joy and felt proud of her son. Quanyi turned his head to look at his parents and saw their appearance. At this moment, Quanyi couldn't resist the joy and excitement in his heart, and his eyes unconsciously turned red. Quanyi excitedly ran towards his parents, tightly hugging them, and his gratitude overflowed in his heart. The always cheerful father also had tears in his eyes at this moment. The deacon of the martial soul hall saw Quan Yi and his pupils shrank. He sighed inwardly. It turns out that he is the son of Quan Chuan and Lieyang Lion. No wonder he gave birth to such a talented son. Unfortunately, it seems that this child has no connection with the martial soul hall. Quan Yi, with his slender arms, hugged his wife and children tightly, suppressing his joy. He calmly said, "Let's go home. We'll wait until we get home." Quanyi and Su Ling'er realized that this was the martial soul hall and that it was not suitable to stay too long. The family walked out of the martial soul hall amidst the envious gaze of those around them. At night, within the territory of the Quan family, the lights were brightly lit. All members of the Quan family gathered around the campfire, laughing and cheering, exchanging cups and toasting. Everyone is celebrating Quanyi. In the past, Quan Yi was immersed in exercise, and for the sake of confidentiality, he rarely appeared in front of family members. Therefore, everyone has been curious about Quanyi for a long time. I didn't expect such amazing news to be brought to everyone's attention for the first time. I have innate soul power, this is the first time I have seen it. With the presence of the young master, shouldn't our Quan family take it to the next level in the future? Yeah, this is innate soul power. Our Quan family may have a title Douluo. Everyone's hearts are filled with expectations for the future, and in this way, Quanyi has consolidated the family cohesion of the Quan family. The protagonist of this banquet sat stiffly in the center of the banquet, silently eating the soul beast meat dish placed at the table. Looking at his father, who was chatting enthusiastically with his tribe in the distance, Quanyi sighed helplessly. "Today is a good day, why are you sighing?" Su Ling'er couldn't help but smile on her face, immersed in the festive atmosphere. "Mother, I haven't heard of a banquet tonight. When did my father prepare these things? Shouldn't I study my martial soul carefully now? Besides, what should I do if I haven't awakened my soul power? The martial soul is not in a hurry to study again tomorrow. As the son of the clan leader, we should also get to know our own tribe well. Your father has put in a lot of effort for this banquet, and the tribe initially thought it was a clan association. You just need to enjoy this banquet well," Su Ling'er explained gently. As Quan looked at the laughter and joy in front of him, he felt a deeper sense of identification with his family. Suddenly, Quan looked at Quan Yi, perhaps Quan Yi wanted to achieve the effect of uniting his family through this banquet. I didn't expect my father's rough appearance to hide such delicate thoughts. Quanyi no longer thought about his martial soul and began to enjoy the dinner to his heart's content. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Ultimate Fire Attribute Martial Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Ultimate Fire Attribute Martial Soul. The next day. In the swimming pool, Quanyi has been swimming for some time now. Although I stayed up late yesterday, the long-established biological clock awakened the spring early. At this moment, the swimming spring clearly felt the changes in its body. The most obvious change is a significant increase in physical strength. Soul power seems to be enhancing this body, and it can also enhance the body's movement ability and endurance. As soon as Quan saw soul power, he naturally thought of the anime works he had seen in his past life. There are many settings that are similar to soul power. For example, chakra, the chant in Hunter. They all originate from their own body energy, and can also in turn strengthen the body's energy. And they can all achieve supernatural abilities that humans cannot. Chakra is a combination of physical and mental energy, and mind is physical energy. The cultivation method of soul power is to use meditation to operate one's own soul power. Although it is a medieval world, the cultivation method is similar to that of traditional Eastern martial arts novels. This world seems like an era of mixed East and West, with nobles, popes, but also sections. Quanyi felt that this world was very strange, and the more he understood it, the stronger this strange feeling became. The morning exercise lasted for a long time, while Quanyi was swimming, constantly adapting to the strengthened body and feeling the changes brought by soul power carefully. The effect of soul power is too amazing, it is only a level 10 soul power that can make an ordinary person stronger to this level. No wonder in this era of cold weapons, soul masters have become the most prestigious profession. It turned out to be due to the power of the soul master himself. This world, despite having supernatural factors, is essentially a world of the jungle. Realizing this, Quanyi became even more determined to become stronger. Breakfast time. The family sat around the dining table. At this moment, Quan Yi and Su Linger were looking at Quan Yi in surprise. At this point, Quanyi had already eaten the second plate of soul beast meat and had not eaten enough yet. "Mother, can we have another plate? My stomach is not full yet." "Why did you eat so much today? Your body won't have any problems, right?" Su Linger asked anxiously. "Mother, I have been exercising for a long time today, so I have consumed a lot," Quan thought for a moment before answering Su Linger. At this moment, the nearby Quan Yi spoke up and said, "It's okay, I'm already a soul warrior, and it's normal to eat more. Moreover, the more I can eat, the stronger my body is. It's a good thing." After thinking for a moment, Su Linger realized that this was indeed the case, and then turned around and returned to the kitchen. In no time, a large basin of freshly prepared grilled meat was brought out. The spring was not wasted at all, and in no time it was all consumed. After finishing his meal, Quanyi comfortably leaned back on the chair, quietly feeling the heat flowing from his abdomen spreading throughout his body. This is the most enjoyable time for Quanyi. Quan Yi saw that Quan Yi had eaten well, so he looked at Su Linger beside him. Su Linger nodded when she saw it. Quan Yi looked at Quan Yi and spoke seriously, "Xiao Yi, since you're already full, come with us. Let's study your martial soul together." "Okay." Quanyi was already a bit impatient. Following his parents, Quanyi arrived at the entrance of a basement. Outside the door, there are two tall men stationed. With a command from Quan Yi, the two men struggled to push open the heavy iron door. Quan Yi and Su Linger gestured for Quan Yi to follow, and at this moment, Quan Yi was very curious and observing the basement. Entering the basement, my mother closed the iron door again from inside, and strangely, there was also a latch on the inside of the door. The underground passage is not long, so the entire basement is not deep. Soon, a wide space appeared in front of Quanyi. Although it was underground, many hanging lights hung on the walls, illuminating the entire basement very brightly. As soon as he entered this space, Quan immediately smelled the metallic smell permeating the basement. At first glance, Quanyi was startled. The underground space was filled with weapons and equipment, shining with metallic luster under the illumination of lights. Quan Yi saw Quan Yi's surprised expression and solemnly introduced him to him. "Son, this is the most secretive space of our Quan family. It is the equipment and weapons that the Quan family has spent a lot of money and time crafting. You usually enjoy reading books related to soul masters, so you should be familiar with the simulated cultivation environment. And this is the simulated cultivation environment we specially designed for Black Iron Hand Armor martial souls. You can also come here to practice in the future. In addition, it is also our Quan family's arsenal. Once the Quan family is in crisis, these equipment are the basis for resisting external enemies. As you just saw, the door here can be locked from the inside, and the tribe can take refuge in this basement and then escape through a secret passage. It can also be considered our Quan family's escape route. I didn't expect there to be such a place in the family, and Quanyi felt that the Quan family didn't seem as simple as he had imagined. In the past, I was not very interested in family affairs, and exercise took up a lot of time and energy, making Quanyi have less understanding of the family. As the son of the clan leader, I will inherit the family business in the future. It seems that in addition to practicing, I also need to have a good understanding of the family's affairs. Quanyi consciously took on the responsibility. Quan Yi received help from his family and naturally wanted to repay them. Quan Yi, who had no family in his previous life, cherished this hard-earned family very much. Alright, the main purpose of bringing you here is to observe your martial soul and summon it out. Okay, father. After speaking, Quanyi summoned his martial soul. It's really beautiful, Su Ling'er couldn't help but admire Quan Yi's martial soul. Xiao Yi, you can inject soul power into your martial soul. The flame that appeared during yesterday's awakening should not be accidental. Your martial soul should be a fire attribute martial soul like mine. Quanyi concentrated his mind and injected his soul power into the martial soul on his right hand. Suddenly, a flame burst out from his armor. Sure enough, this martial soul not only inherits your father's black iron armor, but also inherits my fire attribute. This is a rare mutated martial soul, Su Ling'er said excitedly. Quanyi realized that he could sense the flame in his hand, and it could constantly change with his thoughts. From human form to animal form, Quanyi tirelessly transformed the flames in his hand. However, Su Ling'er beside her stared at Quan Yi's hands tightly and exclaimed in disbelief, "This is impossible. You can control the flames freely without attaching a soul ring. This must be the ultimate fire attribute martial soul." What is the ultimate fire attribute martial soul? Quan Yi beside him seemed to have never heard of it before and quickly asked. Ordinary fire attribute weapons martial souls and beast martial souls can both ignite flames through their martial souls, but at the beginning, they cannot freely control their own flames. Only by attaching a soul ring can they truly control flames for attacks. However, without a soul ring, Xiaoyi can freely control flames, which is impossible except for the legendary ultimate fire attribute martial soul. Su Ling'er widened her beautiful eyes and excitedly explained to the father and son. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Fire Attribute Immunity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Fire Attribute Immunity. I haven't even seen a fire attribute martial soul with such strong control in the Flame Academy. Should I say it's truly innate full soul power? As a top student in the Blaze Academy, Su Ling'er has the highest level of understanding of fire attribute martial souls here. She also saw such a special fire attribute martial soul for the first time. The Flame Academy is one of the famous 5 Elements Academy, which only admits owners of fire attribute martial souls. Here, you can see various fire attribute soul masters. Su Ling'er, who graduated from the Blaze Academy, said she was praising this martial soul, and one can imagine its strength. "Mother, after summoning the martial soul, I can't feel the warmth of the flames. Is this normal?" Quanyi asked her own question. At the first awakening, Quanyi had already sensed the anomaly, and this time Quanyi was completely certain that after summoning the martial soul, he could not feel the burning sensation of the flames. Su Ling'er replied, "This is normal. One's own flames cannot cause harm to oneself. It's like this." Lieyang Lion, possessed. Su Ling'er's whole body burst into a red light, and soon her height grew slightly higher. Her eyes turned into the erect pupils of a fierce beast, her hands turned into lion claws, and a fierce beast's majesty swept over her. Su Ling'er raised her right hand and suddenly a fireball appeared in her hand, although small, emitting a strong, blazing white light. Like a small sun. "Ling'er, your flame has become stronger." Quan Yi sighed on the side. Upon hearing Quan Yi's praise, Su Ling'er also felt a bit proud and said, "Of course, I have never relaxed my soul power cultivation in these years." Su Ling'er is a talented soul master who has never slackened in recent years. In addition, in the past 4 years, influenced by Quan Yi, Su Ling'er has become more diligent and her strength has also risen. At this moment, Quan stared blankly at the fireball in Su Ling'er's hand. "Mother, I still can't feel the temperature of the flames," Quanyi was puzzled. After summoning the martial soul, one will fall into a strange feeling. The whole world seemed to cool down, and the skin and sensation became very sensitive. They could clearly perceive the changes in flames, but could not feel the heat. This counterintuitive feeling made Quanyi very uncomfortable. "Impossible, the flames of my fierce sun lion can melt ordinary metals at the moment of touch. Even if the fire attribute soul master has resistance to flames, it is impossible to completely feel the temperature of flames." Su Linger's face was full of disbelief. Seeing that Su Linger didn't believe it, Quanyi withdrew his martial soul from his left hand and approached the small sun with his left hand. Su Linger was so scared that she quickly withdrew from the flames. "Little one, what are you doing? This is not a joke. My mother asked me to give it a try. I really can't feel the heat of the flames, all I can feel is a cool feeling," Izuchi replied with certainty. Su Linger stared at Quanyi's serious expression, as if she was lying. Suddenly, a certain idea flashed through her mind. She reignited the flames in her hands, but this time the flame was very small and not as white as before, just like the flames on a candle. I lowered the temperature of the flame, and you slowly approached me with your hand. If you felt any heat, you immediately withdrew your hand. Remember. Su Linger instructed cautiously. "Linger, is this too dangerous?" the nearby Quan asked nervously. "It's okay, I've already controlled the temperature of the flame, even if it gets too hot, it's not a big deal," Su Linger explained and turned to look at Quanyi. "Are you ready?" Quan nodded to indicate that he was ready. "Then, slowly approach with your left hand." Quan Yi and Su Linger were highly concentrated at this moment. In no time, Quanyi's hand was very close to the flame. Normally, the heat should have been felt at this moment, but Quanyi still did not feel it. Quan, with one heart and one horizontal, decisively put his hand completely into the flames. "Mother, I still can't feel it. You can gradually increase your firepower." Quanyi only felt a cool feeling and could clearly sense the changes in the flames, but unlike his own flames, he couldn't control this flame with his own thoughts. Seeing this, Su Linger's mouth curled up uncontrollably. She began to slowly raise the temperature of the flames, but Quanyi remained calm. Finally, the flames slowly emitted a blazing white flame, transforming back into the shape of the little sun. Quan Yi also became bold at this moment, opening his palm and gripping the fireball from the bottom, as if holding the sun with his hand. Seeing the miraculous scene, Su Linger completely confirmed her conjecture and excitedly said, "Fire immunity, this is the fire immunity attribute. This is a power that surpasses all fire attribute soul masters. All fire attribute soul masters will become powerless in front of you. Controlling fire, avoiding fire, combined with innate full soul power, is a talent that all fire attribute soul masters dream of. This martial soul is destined to become the emperor of fire." Su Linger was extremely excited, and Quanyi brought too many surprises. She even suspected that she was dreaming. Quan Yi was also very excited at this moment. A powerful martial soul would definitely bring him even greater strength. In Douluo Continent, strength is the most important thing. However, at the same time, Quanyi also knows that he is still very weak and cannot float, and his career as a soul master has just begun. Quan Yi on the side has been carefully observing this martial soul since just now, carefully comparing it with his own martial soul. His understanding of fire attributes is not as high, but his level of understanding of armor as an equipment far exceeds that of ordinary people. So he focused his attention on the armor itself. He found that Quanyi's martial soul was different from his own black iron armor martial soul. The overall design is more in line with the palm and forearm, the entire armor is thinner, and my martial soul is a bit bulky, with thicker iron plates. Therefore, it can be inferred that Quanyi's armor will be more flexible to use, but this may result in weaker defense compared to black iron armor. Xiao Yi, besides fire, your martial soul cannot ignore its own strength. As a weapon martial soul, its own strength is also very important. Can I test the strength of the martial soul? Quan Yi was not blinded by the brilliance of the flames, but still maintained a calm attitude, objectively observing Quan Yi's martial soul. Quan Yi held Quan Yi's armor with his hand, gently bouncing it and pinching and pressing various parts of the armor with his fingers. Carefully testing the weight and hardness of the martial soul. Undoubtedly, it is a martial soul with innate full soul power level. Its hardness is very high, but its weight is light and its flexibility is high. As a hand armor, this is also a very perfect work. Moreover, if you focus on your hands, you should feel a different feeling than before. Quanyi replaced his left hand armor, closed his eyes, and focused on his hand. Yes, father. I feel like my hands have become more flexible. As he spoke, Quan quickly shook his fingers. His left hand started to fold from his thumb, and his right hand started to fold from his little thumb. Both hands were doing opposite movements at the same time. Just like controlling a flame, Quanyi felt that his hands could move freely with his thoughts. Isn't this just a left and right fight? Quanyi exclaimed in his heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Limits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Limits. The technique of left and right combat is derived from Jian Yong's martial arts novels. A master can perform different moves with both hands simultaneously. The first move that Quanyi thought of was this. Nowadays, Quanyi can achieve the simplest dual use of one mind, and this is all due to the hand armor and martial soul. You should have already felt that this is the characteristic of our family's martial soul. Although our family's martial soul is not superior in terms of attack and defense, it also has its unique role. Quan Yi began to explain the unique role of hand armor martial soul. You should be aware that our Quan family's other martial soul is the white glove. And our black iron hand armor martial soul is a mutation from the white glove martial soul. White glove martial soul, as a type of weapon martial soul, is an auxiliary type of martial soul that has neither attack nor defense power. However, the white glove martial soul can make people's hearts and hands agile. Therefore, our Quan family can make various exquisite handicrafts, which is also one of our main businesses. Although your martial soul has mutated, you have also retained this advantage. Quan Yi paused and stared closely at Quan Yi's eyes, saying solemnly, but this feature is not just used for making handicrafts, its true value is reflected in combat. Simply put, it gives you an extra hand and a brain. Therefore, we later named it Distraction Duel.use. Quan immediately understood that Quan Yi, an ordinary person in battle, would have their own dominant hand, while the other hand was relatively weaker. But using distraction can make the other hand's abilities reach the level of habitual use. Not only that, these two hands can perform different moves separately, and when facing a distracted dual user, it feels like being with two people. Unexpectedly, relying solely on the martial soul can achieve this level, and the world of martial souls is deeper than Quanyi imagined. Quan Yi did not expect Quan Yi to understand, and in future training, he will also understand on his own. He raised this topic at this moment to remind Quanyi to gain a deeper understanding of the characteristics of his martial soul. Because only in this way can one choose the soul ring that truly suits them. They gathered in the basement to carefully study Quanyi's martial soul, in order to give Quanyi a deeper understanding of his own martial soul. Many soul masters do not study their martial souls much, so there may be additional soul rings that conflict with their martial soul attributes. This is all due to a lack of understanding of one's own martial soul. The Soul Master family has its own advantages in this regard. Simply put, the total time it takes for 2 generations to become Soul Masters exceeds 50 years, so the 3rd generation can directly absorb these 50 years of experience. Although the hand armor martial soul has only been inherited for 3 generations, it has also accumulated tremendous experience. Regarding the characteristics of martial souls, their combat methods, and soul rings suitable for martial souls. While talent is important, the inheritance of knowledge and experience is also important. Now is the time to showcase the family's strengths, and the experiences of Quan Yi and Su Linger in their respective fields have been turned into nourishment for Quan Yi, enabling him to grow strong. Xiaoyi, have you ever thought about the name of martial soul? Su Linger asked. Well, I've figured it out. It's called Lieyang Hand Armor. The name is very simple, combining Lieyang Lion and Black Iron Hand Armor, symbolizing the inheritance of their martial souls. Well, not bad. Quan Yi asked Quan Yi, after choosing a good name, it's up to you to decide your own development direction. During the growth process, each soul master will develop into different lineages due to various factors such as their own martial soul characteristics and soul ring skills, such as strong attack, auxiliary, control, etc. Just like the professional division of labor in previous lives, this is a natural phenomenon formed after the development of the Soul Master Society to a certain extent. After a moment of contemplation, Quan quickly had an answer in his heart. I choose the strong attack style, Izumi replied with certainty. Such a powerful martial soul, coupled with both parents being strong attack-type soul masters, if they don't know how to choose, then Quanyi would have wasted so many years of reading. Since one has determined their own development direction, the choice of the first soul ring becomes particularly important. Quanyi's talent is very outstanding, so it is even more impossible to randomly attach soul rings. The first soul ring must meet the following conditions. Firstly, it must be a fire attribute soul ring in order to fully utilize the advantage of the Lieyang Hand Armor as an ultimate fire attribute martial soul. Secondly, soul ring skills must meet the requirements of the strong attack system, such as not having auxiliary skills. The couple is currently feeling a headache over this matter. At this moment, Quan Yi has no idea, so he wants to ask Quan Yi for his opinion first. Xiaoyi, have you figured out what kind of soul ring you want for the first soul ring? Quanyi lowered his head and pondered for a moment, but quickly looked up, his eyes flashing with determination, as if he had made some kind of decision in his heart. Quan looked straight at Quan Yi and replied, Father, regarding the first soul ring, I have consulted a lot of information, and the most suitable soul beast for me should be one with both strength and fire attributes. Moreover, the older the soul beast is, the better. For the past 4 years, Quanyi has been collecting information about soul beasts and has been thinking about soul rings. In addition to thinking about soul skills that suit him, Quanyi often thinks about the soul ring itself. The soul ring comes from a soul beast and is a condensation of its soul power. And only those who personally hunt soul beasts can absorb soul rings. Soul rings have many functions. Firstly, it can provide a soul skill, secondly, it can enhance the martial soul, and finally, it can also enhance body attributes. Generally, people's attention is focused on the first 2 points, but Quan Yi is different and places more emphasis on the last point. The better the physical fitness, the greater the soul power one can withstand. Therefore, if we absorb soul rings with higher age and quality as much as possible, will it improve our physical fitness even more. The faster the physical fitness improves, the longer the soul ring can withstand, which can form a positive cycle. Therefore, these 4 years of physical exercise are not just for awakening innate soul power. Exercising hard is also to be able to absorb soul rings as long as possible. According to the records of Douluo Continent, the maximum endurance of the existing first soul ring is 423 years. No one has crossed this limit since then. This number seems like an insurmountable red line, blocking the path for all soul masters to continue breaking through. Quanyi disdains this so-called limit very much. In the past 4 years, he has exceeded his physical limit countless times. The so-called limit is just a limitation set by oneself. Quanyi analyzed all his existing conditions rationally and found that his conditions far exceeded the person mentioned in the record. Extremely strong physical fitness, top-notch martial soul, innate full soul power, combined with fire immunity attribute, Quanyi has a great advantage. He can absorb soul rings of higher-aged fire attribute soul beasts. Therefore, Quanyi does not want to waste his precious first soul ring space. I want to absorb soul rings that have been around for over 500 years. In Quanyi's eyes, a flame seemed to ignite, and the patterns on Lieyang's armor seemed to turn even more bright red. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Test, 500 years. Su Ling'er exclaimed in surprise, do you know what you're talking about? Some soul masters' second soul rings may not have exceeded 500 years. Quanyi appeared calm and calmly replied, Mother, I know very well. With my physical strength, 500 years is not even my limit. Indeed, your physical strength is comparable to that of an ordinary level 20 auxiliary weapon soul master. Unlike Su Ling'er, Quan Yi did not seem surprised. Instead, he thought about it and found that Quan Yi's analysis was indeed very reasonable. Therefore, he agreed. Su Ling'er, however, said with a worried expression, this is different from your previous training. Absorbing soul rings carries risks. If there is an accident, you can lose your martial soul in the mild case, and in the severe case, you can die. Moreover, once you start absorbing soul rings, even gods cannot interfere. Little one, you don't need to take such a big risk. Quan Yi didn't reply, but his eyes were fixed on Su Ling'er. Su Ling'er also met Quanyi's eyes, and the two fell into a stalemate. Both of them want to change each other's thoughts in this way. At this moment, Quan Yi suddenly spoke up and said, I agree with your idea. Quanyi looked at Quan Yi in surprise and was about to say thank you, but Quan Yi immediately said, but I have the conditions. Quanyi was not sure what Quan Yi meant and asked in confusion, please give me your orders. I have two conditions. Firstly, I will master the 2 sets of boxing techniques I have taught you within 2 months. Secondly, you need to obtain the soul ring yourself, and your mother and I will only watch from the side. If we take action, it means you have failed. I hope you can obediently absorb the soul rings that have been around for 400 years. Quan Yi was not in a hurry to answer, but was thinking about whether he could fulfill these 2 conditions. Quanyi believed that this was a test, and to persuade his family, he still needed to demonstrate his abilities. Therefore, after pondering for a while, Quanyi nodded, indicating that he agreed. Okay, let's go back today. Tomorrow morning, when you arrive in the basement, I will officially teach you how to practice. Quan Yi saw that Quan agreed to his condition, and a smile appeared on his face. After saying goodbye to his parents, Quanyi turned around and left. Walking to the exit of the basement, Quan pulled out the latch and slowly opened the door. This action left the guard at the door stunned. 2 adults tried their best to open the iron door, but it was easily opened by a 6-year-old child. This made them more aware of the gap between themselves and soul masters. But what they didn't expect was that Quanyi only relied on his own physical strength and did not use soul power. It can be seen from this that Quanyi's physical strength has reached an incredible level. Quanyi walked out of the iron gate, although it had only been half a day, it felt like a world has passed. But underground, Su Ling'er was questioning Quan Yi. How can you agree to him? Su Ling'er complained. Didn't you notice Xiao Yi's gaze? It was an awakened gaze, and even if we didn't agree, he would definitely do it himself. It was only then that the situation truly broke free from our control. Moreover, the first child is different from ordinary children. Even if you can stop him once, you cannot stop him the next time. He is destined to leave us and venture on his own, and we can only help him with experience and skills. Quan Yi's eyes showed a reluctant expression. Since childhood, I have not been able to accompany Quanyi frequently due to family affairs, and the amount of time I can accompany him may be even less depending on the situation. But the chick wanted to soar, and parents couldn't stop him. Quan Yi could only focus on silently watching his child jump off the cliff. But he is not incapable of doing anything, and although the conditions he proposed are strict, they are not impossible to accomplish. This is a test and also a teaching. In this way, Quan Yi can teach his martial arts skills to Quan Yi. Since it cannot be stopped, the only way to help Quanyi is through this method. At this moment, Quanyi had returned to his room and took out his recorded soul beast notes, carefully screening the soul beasts that matched him. He was not intimidated by those harsh conditions, and his heart had become incredibly strong after 4 years of polishing. This difficulty cannot defeat him. He constantly records the soul beasts that meet the conditions separately. Thanks to organizing the soul beast information before, Quanyi quickly completed the screening task. After finishing, Quanyi carefully collected the records and took out a new piece of paper. At this moment, Quanyi is pondering about his future exercise plan in his heart. After becoming a soul master, Quanyi's cultivation became more extensive. The first one is meditation. Soul power is the most fundamental power of soul masters, so meditation should be the most important thing in the future. The second is physical exercise. As a strong attack-type soul master, physical exercise is even more essential, and it is related to whether he can absorb higher-level soul rings. It is an important part of his plan. The third one is skill training, including boxing, soul power operation, etc. Thinking about it, Quanyi feels like he doesn't have enough time. Fortunately, meditation in this world can replace sleep and have a restorative effect on the body, causing mental fatigue for a period of time. In this way, Quanyi has a whole day to practice. Quanyi wrote down all the content he had thought of on paper, which was not yet a true plan. He had to constantly adjust it in his future cultivation. Looking at the preliminary framework in front of him, Quanyi smiled with satisfaction. With this schedule, Quanyi knew what he needed to do in the future. After finishing writing, Quanyi went to the swimming pool to start his noon exercise. Yesterday, due to the awakening of martial souls and dinner, he was unable to swim at noon and evening. Today, he needs to make up for yesterday's exercise. And starting from tomorrow, Quanyi will be practicing martial arts and may not be able to come to the swimming pool for a while. With this in mind, Quanyi has accelerated his swimming speed. The next morning, Quanyi arrived at the basement. Seeing Quan Yi sitting on the ground practicing soul power. Quan Yi also noticed the movement and slowly opened his eyes. Quan Yi was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt and black shorts, obviously for the convenience of moving his body, so he deliberately wore simple clothing. Quan nodded more satisfied. It seems that you are ready. Today, I will first teach the concept of meditation, and then teach our Quan family's traditional martial arts. Come on, sit down here. Quan Yi pointed to the futon opposite him and gestured for Quan to sit down. I didn't see this futon Quanyi yesterday, so it should have been specially prepared for Quanyi. As soon as Quan sat down, he began to talk about the key points of meditation. There are very few points to pay attention to in meditation. First, one should calm their mind and perceive the soul power in their body. Then, they should concentrate and circulate the soul power within their body. With each cycle, the soul power will increase. Quanyi closed his eyes and quietly sensed the soul power inside his body. As his mind focused, the appearance of the meridians in his body came to mind. Is this the legendary insider view? And, it's called meditation, but isn't this the internal power cultivation method in martial arts novels? Why is there no corresponding cultivation method in this world, but such crude cultivation methods are used? Quanyi's heart was filled with countless doubts. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Gang and Jian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Gang and Jian. Quanyi combined his knowledge of past life history and briefly analyzed it, and came up with a reason. Douluo Continent is a strict hierarchical society, and it is very difficult to change both identity and soul power levels. The soul master family at the top of society has a powerful martial soul, and therefore, comes with higher innate soul power. Their talents are already stronger than ordinary people, so these soul master families do not need to improve their cultivation methods. However, lower-level soul masters, such as those from ordinary families, have a low level of education and limited perspectives. They couldn't even think of improving. Moreover, soul masters need to break through level 30 before the age of 20, otherwise, no matter how hard they work afterwards, they will not be able to break through this bottleneck. Therefore, the entire soul master world has fallen into a dilemma of only natural talent theory. No one will study and cultivate techniques like this. But there will definitely be some people in this world who continue to study. And these people must have an educational background, and secondly, their talents must be poor, otherwise they have no reason to study this thing. Finally, and most importantly, this person must be someone who has not yet accepted their fate. Only those who are still unwilling in their hearts will do things that no one can do. But Quanyi is different. Although he has so-called talents, this is not a reason to hinder his progress. Since it is known that improvements can be made, there is no reason not to do so. It seems that another task needs to be added to the schedule. During his contemplation, the soul power had already run through Quanyi's body, but Quanyi did not perceive the increase in soul power, but felt the presence of some kind of wall. Is this the bottleneck? Quanyi slowly opened his eyes and said to Quan Yi, "Father, I have mastered meditation. I can now practice martial arts." "Great, now that you have mastered meditation, you can officially start learning some boxing techniques. Our Quan family's martial arts are both offensive and defensive, forming our own family. Among them, the most important ones are the two sets of martial arts that I will teach you. It can be said that the essence of our Quan family's martial arts is hidden in these two sets of martial arts. One is the defensive fist technique, hard, and the other is the attacking fist technique, sharp. Gang, condense soul power on the hand, forming a hard membrane that can be attacked and defended. Sharp, condensing spikes in the fist. When the spikes penetrate the enemy's body, soul power will enter, causing internal damage. It's not so much about boxing, it's more like using soul power skills." Quanyi raised his doubts. "Father, this is a technique for using soul power, not boxing, right?" Not bad, this is not even martial arts, but Gang and Jian are indeed the most important components of the Quan family's martial arts. As long as you learn Gang and Jian within these 2 months, you can pass the level." Quan Yi didn't explain much, although Quan Yi still had some questions, he had already started explaining. Quanyi can only concentrate and listen attentively. The principle of Gang and Jian is very simple, which is to control soul power and concentrate it on both hands. Just about to condense soul power into a thin film, forming a hard defense on the hand. Sharpness is the process of condensing soul power into sharp spikes, which, when struck with a fist, can easily penetrate the defense on the surface of the body and inject soul power into the enemy's body. After speaking, Quan Yi showed off and saw a black light emerging from his hands, quickly covering them. Isn't this just armed and domineering? This idea came to Quanyi's mind. The black hands have a metallic luster and look very hard. Suddenly, Quan Yi's right hand slowly changed, and the peak of his fist slowly protruded, eventually forming a pointed shape. After the display, Quan Yi instructed Quan Yi, "Sharpness is an advanced move of hardness. You can practice hardness first, and then cultivate sharpness." Quanyi didn't hesitate and started practicing directly. After practicing, Quan realized that he underestimated the difficulty of Gang and Jian's cultivation. Although the principle is simple, it is very difficult to practice. Firstly, the control of soul power within the body is very simple, but once soul power penetrates the body, the difficulty of controlling soul power increases sharply. Once soul power leaves the body, it quickly dissipates, making it very difficult to fix soul power on the surface of the body. Moreover, in order to form a strong enough soul power film, more soul power needs to be condensed, and as soul power increases, the difficulty of control also increases. The consumption of soul power is too great, one attempt consumes 1/10 of soul power, and the number of attempts per day is limited, and a lot of time is wasted on meditation. No wonder martial arts cultivation takes place in the basement, which is a simulated training environment for armored martial souls. Here, the recovery speed of soul power far exceeds other places. Although facing numerous difficulties, it did not overwhelm Quanyi. In order to complete this test within 2 months, Quanyi decisively gave up sleep. Replace sleep with meditation. After a week, Quanyi was able to concentrate his soul power on the surface of his skin and maintain it for a period of time. Quanyi's soul power presents a dark red color, and after being covered by the soul power, it feels like magma wrapped in his hands, magnificent yet filled with a dangerous aura. However, the current soul power is not yet stable, and the soul power membrane often fluctuates. Once there is a fluctuation, its hardness will decrease. But everything is moving in a positive direction. This progress has far exceeded Quanyi's imagination. It took Quan Yi half a year to barely learn how to be strong. In terms of soul power control, innate full soul power cannot bring any help, and soul power control requires strong spiritual power. Can it be said that Quanyi also has a talent beyond ordinary people in terms of spiritual power? What Quan Yi didn't know was that Quan Yi was a reincarnation. Although Quanyi's physical age is 6 years old, his soul age has already exceeded 20 years old. This means that Quanyi has more than 10 years of development time compared to his peers, and of course, his spiritual strength will be very strong. According to Quanyi's progress, it may not take 2 months, but only 1 month to fully grasp Gang and Jian. At this moment, Quanyi had no time to observe Quanyi's reaction, and his attention was focused on his cultivation. Although the cultivation of just and thoroughly does not cause physical fatigue, the mental burden is heavy. But as he practiced, Quanyi could feel that his spiritual burden was gradually decreasing. At this time, Quan Yi was not yet clear that this was a manifestation of increased spiritual strength. With the increase of spiritual power, Quanyi's control over soul power is constantly strengthening. Under the same soul power, the soul power membrane on the hand becomes thinner and more stable. In the second week, Quanyi completely learned how to be strong. Afterwards, Quan Yi mastered it faster. After all, sharpness is just the condensation of thorns on the basis of rigidity. On the 28th day of cultivation, Quanyi found Quan Yi. "Father, I have mastered both Gang and Jian." Quan Yi no longer knows how many times he has been surprised. Through these weeks of observation, Quan Yi has gained a deeper understanding of Quanyi. Quanyi has a steel-like will. Compared to Izumi's willpower, innate soul power appears insignificant. Quan Yi was also worried that Quan would start to slack off in cultivation after awakening his super high talent. But there was no sign of relaxation on Quanyi's body. Quan Yi put himself in a different position and realized that he couldn't achieve the non-stop cultivation like Quan Yi. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Personnel Management. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Personnel Management. The duration of Quan Yi is 2 months, and it is not aimless, but calculated after some calculation. In his calculations, 2 months, although not impossible to complete, should also be very tight. It took Quan Yi half a year to learn Gang and Jian. He combined the recovery speed of Quanyi's innate full soul power and set a 2-month deadline. But I didn't expect Quan to learn it in less than a month. All of this cannot be separated from Izumi's spiritual talent, but what is even more astonishing is Izumi's willpower. The training intensity itself is not something that ordinary people can bear. Although meditation can replace sleep, mental fatigue is difficult to eliminate. But every time he condensed his soul power, Quanyi was fully focused and never relaxed. Although Quan Yi felt very relieved, he also had considerable pressure. As parents of gifted children, sometimes we have to make decisions that go against common sense. Just like Quanyi's 500-year soul ring plan, being able to agree to such an outrageous decision for children is not something that ordinary parents can do. Quan Yi is also under tremendous pressure. Of course, Quanyi also knows this, so he cannot slack off at all. Okay, now that you have passed my assessment, you can prepare to hunt for soul rings. Since Quanyi has passed the test, Quan Yi can no longer stop Quanyi. But Quanyi doesn't seem to be in a hurry. "No, father. I still have 1 month of free time, and I want to continue learning the second half of boxing." At first, Quan did not anticipate this situation, but since a month has been left free, he can continue to learn martial arts, which increases the possibility of obtaining high-level soul rings. Quan Yi didn't feel anxious when he saw Quan, but instead maintained a calm attitude and completely let go of his worries. Such a cautious child must have thought twice before presenting their own opinions. His inner rationality was terrifying, and Quan Yi even felt a hint of fear towards his own child. Since you have decided to spend your time here, I have no objection. However, I would like to remind you that practicing martial arts will take a lot of time, so pay attention to your own time management. Okay, I plan to continue studying for a month and then set off, Quanyi replied in response. The Quan family fist originated from the shield and spear techniques. The attack and defense of the hand armor martial soul are relatively weak. To make up for this deficiency, your grandfather, who was the previous head of the family, fought with a shield and spear. Quan Yi's grandfather, Quan Yi, is the founder of the Quan family. With the mutated martial soul black iron armor, he has created his current family business. Although Quanyi has never seen it before, I heard that his grandfather is currently stationed in the most important shop of the Quan family in Tiando City. The most crucial thing is that Quanyi's grandfather is a powerful soul Douluo level warrior. Quanyi has often heard of his grandfather's story since he was young. Therefore, he is not unfamiliar with him. Unexpectedly, Gang and Jian were invented by Grandpa. Quanyi's grandfather, whom he had not met before, developed a greater curiosity. Quan Yi continued, this also maximizes the distraction and dual use of the armor and soul. The selection and use of weapons with both hands can be said to be a stroke of genius. But soon, your grandfather discovered a flaw. That's because the quality of weapons can't keep up with the progress of soul masters. Without weapons, hand armor and martial souls won't have an advantage in battle. After a period of decline, he noticed the advantage of soul power. Soul power itself will become stronger as the soul master grows. Therefore, after more than a decade of grinding, he created a method to condense soul power. And rigidity and sharpness are essentially shields and spears. The Quan family's martial arts evolved from shield and spear techniques. Upon hearing this, Quan was greatly shocked. He was deeply moved by his grandfather's wisdom and perseverance. Creating one's own path requires courage. Quan Yi continued, the advantage of Quan family fist lies in its freedom. Rigidity and sharpness can be freely switched between your hands, and you can even use sharpness and firmness with both hands. Attack and defense are all in your mind. Next, I will teach you the most basic attacking and defensive postures. You need to think about and improve the rest on your own in the future battles. Remember, our Quan family boxing is freedom. After Quan Yi finished explaining the origin of his martial arts, he posed in front of Quan Yi. Quanyi, fully focused. However, what Quan Yi teaches is the most basic standing posture and posture. It's very simple. You can basically watch it once and then imitate it very similarly by doing it again. The only thing to note is that both hands should take turns doing it once. You cannot just do your right or left hand. Quan Yi understands that this is a balanced exercise of both hands. Quan Yi followed Quan Yi through the basic movements over and over again, and after doing them for several hours, Quan Yi was already able to complete them on his own. At this moment, Quan Yi stopped and began to strictly observe Quan Yi's movements. His eyes seemed like eagle eyes, and any deviation could not escape his eyes. Raise your right hand a little higher, the movement has become distorted. Quanyi doesn't know how many times this is. Although Quan Yi once said that freedom is the most important aspect of martial arts, he is very strict about basic movements. This process has been going on all afternoon, but it doesn't even count as a warm-up for Quanyi. Quanyi is not very familiar with martial arts, but he also knows the importance of basics. Therefore, repeating it seriously. For the next month, Quanyi repeated basic movements every day. At first, he did it very slowly, pursuing the most correct posture. But gradually, his speed began to accelerate. Quan Yi also admitted that Quan Yi was already considered a beginner. In the future, it will be hard work, as long as you keep improving. On the 50th day of the test, Quan Yi's perfect set of movements has been reduced from the first 30 minutes to 10 minutes. In the basement, Quan Yi was naked and punching. The movements were already very smooth, with every block and punch, Quan Yi used all his strength. Sweat droplets condense on the surface of the skin and fall to the ground with movement. The sweat flowing down has already wetted the ground at the foot of the spring. Although it is the simplest action, every move requires full body strength and is also very tiring. Quan Yi used this method to simultaneously exercise his boxing and body, achieving 2 goals with 1 stone. After playing for a while, Quan Yi stopped moving. If usual, he will continue until late at night. But not today. Because we are going hunting tomorrow. The past 2 months of hard work have been dedicated to this moment. Quan Yi has some expectations. Stepping out of the basement, a gentle breeze blew through the spring's sweaty body, taking away the heat and sweat. Very comfortable. As soon as Quan looked up, the bright moon shone in the sky, and he was in a great mood. Quan Yi quietly enjoyed the tranquility, and the excitement in his heart slowly calmed down. Quan Yi has exhausted all personnel, and after that, all he needs to do is listen to fate. But Quan Yi is convinced that this is just the first step in his new life. I'm hungry, let's go eat meat first. Touching his stomach, Quan Yi walked towards the cafeteria. End of this chapter.